Hi guys, Sky here, and we have Stormy here.
Hello.
So today we're gonna talk about episode 3 of WandaVision. As of now, the episode doesn't have a title, but for the past two episodes, they added the title later in, so they'll probably do that later this week. But this episode was um all in color in comparison to like the other two episodes, and it was sort of like the 70s type vibe, and we got a little more clues as to what's happening in the show, but it's still all a mystery. um Stormy, what did you think about this episode?
I mean, yeah, I like the fact that it had color. I like the how the episode was structured. It did feel like a little bit. I don't know if modern's the right word, but it did feel like it was trying to hint to a more modern like world. I don't know if that's like the right way to explain it. But it did feel like there was elements to it that we didn't get in the previous episodes.
Yeah, yeah, like it's from what it looks like, they're just gonna keep going through different like decades of like television eras, I guess. And this week's episode, it might be like 80s. I'm not sure, but yeah, that seems to be the way they're going with it. But I'm assuming as we get to the end of the series, it's going it's going to break away from that sort of like type of vibe. So I guess we'll see. So transitioning on, some key points that stood out to me in this episode were first off, I mean, got to see like um Vision was sort of using his powers a little more in this episode in comparison to the past two. Did you notice that, Stormy?
Yeah, I kind of felt like it was interesting, but it felt a little forced. If that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess I could see that. The only thing I guess that really stood out to me, like leaning on you saying it's about force. Um, I didn't I didn't know he had like running abilities.
Yeah,
I thought
and
that was just a quicksilver ability.
yeah, and
So
another thing that I was curious about, um, especially talking on Vision this entire episode, it kind of felt like wouldn't the people in the world seeing him run that fast say something? I mean, the doctor did, but he didn't really like say anything like, "Oh, like why can you run that fast?" Like we were flying. He made a note about flying when he came into the house, and it was like
yeah,
to me that's like that stands out as like, oh, how? Like what's the difference
yeah,
of
and
how?
I although we know Vision has the ability like to run from the comics, it's not one of his more like prominent like abilities. So I felt like that I feel like the people in the background didn't like, point it out, was like, because it also lines up with like that whole thing that all these people seem to be like brainwashed or something, or playing along with whatever is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because if in the real world someone would obviously point that out or like
Yeah, for
comment
sure.
on it, so it's probably that. But and also another point, in this episode, main focus is Wanda giving birth to, well, they thought it was just one child, but it was two twins, which we know from the comics. So we're starting to see new heroes being introduced into the MCU. What did you think about it, Stormy?
As I kind of like referenced earlier, it's like on the point of his powers, like I would be interested in seeing kind of how like the comics version of Vision was handled, and I would be interested in seeing more like area for him to grow, maybe, because it does seem like Vision is a little forced.
Uh, my assumption right now is that we're gonna see him progress through the episodes, because I feel like Vision is the one that's more like self aware of something not being right,
Mhm.
rather than the other characters. Because in this episode, he goes up to the two like neighbors, and they're like secretly talking about something, and then he walks up to them, and like he realizes something is off about it, because they won't tell him what they were talking about. And I feel like we might see some more evolution in his character from that.
Yeah, I feel like we're still bound to see more changes, and we might even see bits and pieces that we weren't expecting to see that quickly. Like we said with the running.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump to conclusions yet on like the characters, but we'll probably see these characters be developed more as we progress. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Now another point, one of the more like key points was, we see this character, her name in this fake reality is Geraldine, but we all know her name is actually Monica Rambeau. And we last saw her in Captain Marvel, and she was just like a little girl right there. So if you paid attention to her necklace, she had like the sword logo on it, and so that leads us to believe that she might be working for them, or she's doing something for them.
Hmm.
Um, what did you see that as?
I mean, that entire scene that she was introduced, and then comparing that to this episode with the pregnancy, it did seem like she was definitely more aware of what was happening. And then we heard her mention the line about Ultron, which, I mean, pretty much confirms that like she's not from like that world, and she's not made up. It means that she came from the outer world, which we see at the end of the episode. Um, but I definitely think that there's more to that character that maybe we don't know about yet, or somehow she's tied into something that we haven't seen. Um, as you were saying with Sword, and obviously we see at the end of the episode her getting thrown out of what we presume to be a barrier, but that kind of, helps the point.
Yeah, I as she was thrown out of like, it was like a red force field, and then we see like sword people approach her in like um military type like vehicles. I feel like we're gonna see that in the coming episode, and I mean, it just shows us that something is definitely not right, and it's gonna be cool to see what's happening. Um, so any last thoughts?
I mean, I definitely think this was the best episode we've gotten so far. I definitely think that we're approaching to be a bigger plot, and maybe there's something that we haven't seen yet, obviously. And I'm hoping we get another point of view rather than just out of the main characters.
Yeah. Paul Bettany, who's the actor that plays Vision, he they asked him like what we could expect from episode 4, and he said it's going to be mind blowing. So I mean, obviously that's a joke, because you know his mind was technically blown in Infinity War. But I mean, I'm assuming something big is gonna happen in this coming episode.
I'm excited to see the next one and excited to see where the series as a whole goes.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you guys think in the comments, and we'll see you for episode 4.